Hi everyone, it's Miss Akvari in the library. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the book What the Eagle Sees by the author Eldon Yellowhorn. This book is a nonfiction book. It's a history book that tells a lot of the history of how Native Americans have existed in North America and kind of talking through what that looked like before colonists came and kind of the history that maybe we're aware of that we've been learning in United States history, but also kind of thinking about North America as a whole, not just the United States, but also Mexico and Canada to some degree. The author, Eldon Yellowhorn, is a professor of Native American Studies. He is part of the Blackfeet people. He actually grew up on the Piegan Indian Reserve, which is in Canada. So it's north of Glacier National Park in Montana, just east of the Rocky Mountains. And so it's kind of maybe a different perspective. We think about the United States and Canada as being really distinct countries, but when you think about Native American or Indigenous history, those borders weren't there, and so there's a lot of carryover in lands and histories that this book kind of talks about. And so Mr. Yellowhorn is definitely an expert. He's writing about his own background and culture, and he's made this kind of his life's work. So his book is full of a lot of really interesting information and is very well researched. The other thing that's kind of interesting is it's not just chronological, so it's not just history told over time periods. It's also kind of grouped around themes, which is interesting. So as a reader, you could read it from the beginning to the end. You could choose a chapter that's most interesting to you. You could kind of move back and forth, whatever seems to be the best fit for what you want to know. The interesting thing to me also about this book is it's sort of set around the symbolism of the eagle, and that the eagle has kind of the bird's eye view, right? They spend a lot of time in the air and they're seeing things from a really wide perspective. So that's also an interesting way to think about history in a little bit different way than we kind of think about it. I wanted to read just a little bit of the introduction. This is called Eagle's Tale, and it says, "If we listen, every bird and animal has a story to tell us. Of all the birds and animals, eagle tells the most important story of all, the story of life. Eagle flies over everything, so he sees everything. He sees daylight and darkness, summer and winter, dry land and water, snowy mountains and cool valleys. He sees beauty and ugliness, war and peace. He soars so high that he is the go-between between humans and the chief of the sky world. Eagle has the gift of flight and freedom that we humans can only dream of. Maybe that's why we tell so many stories about him. Story in which Eagle is the king of birds, or a chief who talks with humans, or a sage advisor whose insights teach us life lessons. Eagle inspires us to go where he goes, to reach beyond our grasp. That is why John Bennett Harrington of the Chickasaw Nation, the first indigenous astronaut, took an eagle feather into space with him on the Space Shuttle Endeavour in 2002. Eagle's feathers are part light and part dark. The history in this book is like an eagle's feather. Past centuries have been full of terrible, tragic events for Indigenous people. That's the dark side of our story. The light, hopeful side is that against all odds we have survived. If you want to understand the past, keep Eagle's ways in mind. Take the long view, like Eagle does." So if you enjoy reading about history, if you're curious about Native American Heritage Month, the book What the Eagle Sees would be a great book for you to read.